For a public figure, Bill Hayden has kept himself a very private man. Most people, for example, wouldn't have a clue what his family looks like, what his hobbies are, or the fact that before he came to Canberra, he used to be a Queensland cop. The problem is, when you're running for the highest office in the land, with an election just 4 weeks away, can you really afford to keep a low profile?
I've always had a thing, and it goes back to my family background, about exaggerated display, about too vain a presentation of oneself. The principle has been, certainly in my family, and I think it was very common when I was young, that it's uncouth to be talking about yourself. Others should do it. I found, however, in politics, if you don't do it, the others who do it don't do it too well for you. You've got to do something about it.
The first thing that has to be said about Bill Hayden is that he's got an image problem. And cartoonists like Larry Pickering don't exactly help. Why do you think that most cartoonists seem to be depicting you as something of a dwarf?
I don't know. I think, by and large, the cartoonists aren't bad, except they don't seem to be able to get my better graces, and you'll have to talk to them.
I don't know what his finer points are, mate. Like, to me, he's someone that's ideal for cartooning, because he gets himself hooked into these situations where he's got Wran and Hawke up against him, and he really looks so diminutive. He has this, his nose is the most important thing, there's sort of cleft in the middle of it, and then he has these sort of whinging eyebrows that sort of keep going up, and sort of all the way up, and then he has a very weak chin, which, and with his stuttering and a sort of high voice, doesn't really help for the old image, you know. But don't mistake me, I really like the guy. I think he's a super bloke.
All right, we'll just start you a little further back and just take your time in walking down the steps.
The ALP image makers are only too aware of Bill Hayden's problems. No, they say, he's not overshadowed by Wran and Hawke. Rather, he's got the help of two powerful friends.
This time we'll talk about botany, like flowers. We'll look dead serious, Ruby soon. No, they like the ones up here.
Okay, that'll do there. You can stop there. Right, just keep it happy, looking at each other and walk nice and slow.
For the TV campaign, it will be three party mates, all very comradely stuff.
Bob.
Okay, roll camera, and action. Away you go. Nice and happy.
Is that right?
Smiles and intimacy for the cameras, please, gentlemen. What I'm wondering is, in a situation like this, in this sort of high-powered company, whether in fact someone like Bill Hayden is a leader or the first among equals, because he's stacked up against he's the leader.
I'm not in this business for fun. I'm in it to win. And I'm sure if Malcolm Fraser had anyone who could add lustre to his position in the Liberal Party, he'd use them. That's provided they'd be prepared to work with him.
I think that Bill's great qualities are his obvious integrity and his obvious competence as an economic manager. In other words, when he says something, he gives you the impression that when he gets the power, it'll be done. And I think that may, in the long term, be more important than what you so eloquently describe as charisma.
Bill Hayden lives in his electorate of Oxley, deep in the heart of Queensland suburbia. His home, working class on the way up, isn't very different from his Ipswich neighbours.
George, we weren't proposing to put the barbecue on until about 3-ish. That's a bit late for you. Do you want it on earlier?
Hayden is a family man. As he puts it, mainstream Australia. Over the kitchen sink, it's hard to argue with that description.
That'd be a good idea. We'll establish then whether you stay as late as 3.
What do you think your greatest strength is, as an individual and as a politician, I suppose?
Oh, I guess you look at a range of areas. I suppose the fact that I live in the suburbs with people, I understand their problems, I can understand more easily the aspirations, the needs of the average Australian. Now, I don't believe our present Prime Minister can do that because he's always been remote from this sort of environment, and to the best that he can get somewhere near these problems, it's a sort of theoretical exercise for him. He doesn't feel it. It's a sort of gut level experience that he understands.
Look, it's melting already.
Until now, Bill and Dallas Hayden's home has been kept a very private domain. But now there's an election to be won, and reluctantly, the Labor leader seems to have accepted there could be vital votes in letting people see his family life.
No, dog.
60 Minutes and Women's Weekly are here to record young Kirk Hayden's 14th birthday in living colour.
Well, lean your arms around each other, okay?
Oh,
Yeah, there we are. Now.
Looks like you're in the scrum.
You're not going to teach Ziggy out of it.
We're just going to blow it out.
A big blow now, okay? Come on.
Blow it
Into it, yeah. Got it, right. Okay, thanks very much.
You've studiously avoided allowing your private life, your family, your wife and the kids to be seen publicly, to get involved in the whole media aspect of...
sweat away. It's not because you're giving me a grilling.
No, it's that.
Right.
But you have, haven't you? You've studiously avoided allowing the media to poke its nose into your affairs.
In that sense, it is very much a collective
Why are
family.
you so... I mean, it is a very hard and fast rule that you've applied.
Mm-hmm.
We feel even lucky to be here.
I'm glad that you have an appropriate understanding of the significance of the occasion. It's not like you to be modest.
Well, considering that you have been so hard and fast about it, why do you feel that strongly about keeping your family out of that sort of public
Well, these things have always worried me. I've taken a great responsibility on, as my wife has. We've done it mutually, bringing children into the world, and we want to make a success of that. That's the first thing by which we will make an accounting later on in life as to whether our life has been a success. Not this, which is very important to me and to my wife and our children, but whether the children have been successful. That means successful in terms of being good citizens.
Bill Hayden's background certainly didn't point to Prime Minister. At 18, National Service and the Navy. At 20, the Queensland Police Force for 8 years. Then, marriage to Dallas, a miner's daughter. And by 1961, the cop had become a political cause fighter. In that election, Hayden took the seat of Oxley from the Menzies government and has held it ever since. In Parliament, Hayden, the late developer, studied at night and got himself a degree in economics, now regarded politically as his greatest selling point.
My experiences in politics is that if you over-dramatise an element or a proposition, and people discover, as they inevitably do, that you've done this, then your credibility suffers an enormous discounting factor, which is to your disadvantage.
He remains something of an academic. In fact, thanks to his love of statistics and long-winded explanations, Hayden's often called the only politician who can make a simple issue sound complex.
Bill could talk less about economics when he goes to the ordinary people and show his humanity, because look, he's a man with enormous humanity.
Tom Uren, a leading but fading light of the Labor left, has been privy to his leader's sensitivity.
I've seen him, look, in my earlier days I've seen him very sensitive, and he'll take me aside and he'd read poetry. He used to write poetry, and he'd read this poetry. And of course he's gone through some tragic experiences himself with his family, the loss of one of his children, and at a very early age, the child. And that's imprinted on Hayden, the man, that's made him a better man.
Get the dog out.
Who pushed him in? Kirk? Who pushed the dog in? Who pushed the dog in?
Kirk is the youngest member of a close Hayden family. There are 2 daughters, Ingrid still at school in Brisbane, and Georgina, a college student who lives with her father in Canberra. A 4th Hayden child, Michaela, was killed in a road accident in 1966. A shattering experience the family have never really recovered from. Do anything like this, really, do you?
Not a lot, George.
Have you ever thought during the normal ups and downs of your political career that you just wanted to pull out? Or have you always felt that you were going to continue on? I mean, has there been anything that happened to you or the family that made you think maybe I ought to get out?
We had some bad luck in 1966, which disturbed us, but...
Are you able to talk about that now?
Because... No, I don't. If we hadn't won in 1972, I don't think I would have cared to have stayed in politics. At that stage, I'd had 11 years of opposition, and I frankly wasn't looking forward to much more of it because I could see all I was doing was talking and nothing much was happening. The great ideals I was committed to, the things the Labor Party stood for, were not being applied. And then we got into government, and that gave me a new lease of life and confidence. Well, now I wouldn't lead it. I believe we're going to win this election. I believe the Labor Party will do great things for this country.
I know it's a silly thing to say to a politician with your sorts of ambitions, but you say when we win, what if you don't win?
look, at the very worst, we'd do well. We would be knocking on the door, and we'd get it next time. But as things stand now, and as they've stood for every month of this year, if there'd been an election at any time in that period, we'd win. And my own hunch is, and it's a collective view of my colleagues from their experiences, in the last several weeks we've picked up a lot.
Another cartoonist, Patrick Cook, likens Bill Hayden to the great Houdini, a man whose chains are of his own making. To many, if Hayden is going to win next month, he might have to break away from the restraints of his own personality. No one doubts his dedication. Persistent, meticulous. Some say he's a workaholic, but charismatic, hardly.
Well, Gordon, I have much pleasure in officially declaring open your CB Radio Club at Goodna. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hayden.
You don't need to spend much time with Hayden to realise he's no showman.
Radio Club.
Small talk doesn't come easy to him.
They call it skip. And what happens is your signal bounces off the ionosphere and sort of through transmissions, you know.
Starts ricocheting around. Well, what now? This comes straight from the Bible, bird offerings.
That's what you really call burnt at the stake.
Bill Hayden's genuine image as the suburban family man could work both for and against him. On the one hand, it's a winner with those Australians who would like to see one of the blokes in the job of Prime Minister. On the other hand, there are those who think you need to be a special breed for such a job, a class above the rest of us. Either way, Bill Hayden, at least, reckons he's big enough to take it on.
There's plenty more meat down there. If you want any,
Is that lettuce or
just let me know.
lettuce?
And I'll come out and cook it.
Salad con.
In the meantime, I'll have a beer because I deserve it after all that work.
What work?
Huh?
You don't really like the PR hype aspect of the job at all, do you?
I found a few problems about the flamboyance, the display, as it were. Watch me do a soft shoe shuffle dance in the middle stage.
Now, watching you close up, you are awkward on occasions about having to project yourself.
I said to you earlier that I talked about the flamboyance thing. As you know, I was a cop for nearly 9 years, and no one serves in the police force unless they get into some tight corners sometimes. And I had a few experiences where people who were extroverted about themselves, about how good they were, well, by and large, the people who let you down on a tight corner. Look, let people prove their worth in the eyes of others by their performance. I think that's a good rule.
But to be quite honest, your criticism of flamboyant people could be easily interpreted as a criticism of a man like Bob Hawke.
I don't believe so. I certainly wasn't thinking of him, and I wish we wouldn't personalise this. You asked me why I'm not, and I'm telling you why I'm not.
Without the political footwork that people like yourself often indulge in, do you see Bob Hawke as a rival? Either, if not in the immediate future, certainly at some stage.
There are plenty of ambitious people and plenty of able people in the caucus, and if I make a mess of it, if I stuff it up, to use the parlance we all understand, there'll be others who'll move in. And that's fair enough. I deserve it. But I'm not stuffing it up. I'm doing a good job. I'm leading us to victory. Who it's going to be after the third Hayden Labor government, I don't know. Maybe I want to hang on. But at this stage, I'm only thinking about 3 terms of Parliament as Prime Minister.
We've got 9 years to look forward
and
to.
You might note the modesty that I'm displaying, especially for your benefit, George.
Not only are you not flamboyant, you're also modest. Only 9 years, that's all you're going to give yourself.
For a start. I don't like to project beyond about 9 years.